In this video, I'm going to take this Ludwig kit and turn it into an aggressive sounding 80s drum kit with distortion and delay. This is the Ludwig Classic default kit preset with the 1920s Ludwig Black Beauty loaded. Now I've already created all of my channel effects and bus sends, and I'm going to go through them one by one very quickly so you can see how we can get from what we just listened to a drum mix that sounds like this. So the first thing I did was add bus sends. We have distortion bus sends, and we have delay bus sends, and also a comp bus send. So I'll go ahead and enable these, and I can mute the actual channels. And this is just on the kick, snare, toms, and the ambience. So I want to add some distortion, a little bit of delay, and some compression. By the way, everything that we're going to be adding, for the most part, is analog style effects. So we're using effects from within Superior Drummer 3 that emulate some type of analog hardware. So let's solo the distortion channel, and we have just a typical distortion pedal. I've increased the drive and increased the tone. Next we have the delay, and for that we are using a tape delay, and I have it synced to my tempo of 75, so you'll hear the delay at a 16th note after the hit. I've turned up the distortion and the wow and flutter just for some extra texture. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what this sounds like. So that's the actual delay. I'll unsolo it and start it again so you can hear what the rest of the kit sounds like with that delay effect. Finally, we have a compression channel, and here I'm just using a classic Comp 76. I've really pushed the input gain quite a bit. We have a very fast attack and release, and I have the mix dial all the way up. I really want a lot of compression here, and then I just bring that in to the mix. And I'll just mute the distortion, delay, and comp in different orders so you can hear what that does to the mix. Next, I wanted to address each of the individual channels, kick, snare, toms, and the ambience. Let's actually start with the ambience, and all I wanted to do was add some texture to the room mic. And one way to do this is with a chorus effect. However, sometimes the chorus effects can be too much, so that's why I use this Dimension T plugin. It adds a nice chorus effect without being over the top. And you have very simple functions. Each one of these buttons will change the chorus effect to some degree, so you have a few different variations there. So I just like what that subtle chorus texture adds to the room mic, the ambience channel. So I actually did the same thing to the kick and snare. The idea here is if it's too much, I can disable the Dimension T effect on the ambience, kick, or snare and use any combination of them. Next in this mix, I felt like the kick and the toms could use a little more high-end presence. So what I've done is I've added a punch exciter to both, and I just adjusted the mix. I left the compression in the default state and I pulled the mix down on the kick, and actually the punch exciter on the toms is in the default state. So this will just give these drums a little more high-end presence. And finally, just to glue everything together and clean it up a bit, I've added a tape simulator at the very end. And I brought the drive down, but I'm turning up the wow and flutter and the bias. I'll show you what that sounds like. I've also turned up the speed as well. So this gives the tape simulator a little bit of a different characteristic on the drum bus. And I'll go ahead and enable this second plugin. This is the EQ84, the analog style EQ. All I'm doing here is using the low cut just to clean up some of those very low sub frequencies. So that's a little more of an extreme configuration of the mixer, but really I'm just using some bus sends. We're using analog style effects within Superior Drummer 3, and we can come up with some very creative options for some big, ambient, aggressive sounding drums, once again using primarily analog style effects within Superior Drummer 3.